Good week one review show. We've actually made it. We did it. We got through it. We had a great time doing it. And there were some fantastic games this weekend. First of all, we'll start with Georgia and Clemson. That was kind of a slog. The only offensive touchdown scored in that game was none. There was no offensive touchdown scored that game. A pick six is the deciding winner. Georgia won the game 10-3. We're going to do like our playoff predictions at the end of the show, and we're going to do that week by week and show what's going on. We got a nice little pretty graphic in the whole 9 yards. But the main story from week one is the ACC's playoff hopes on life support. Because Clemson's games that they have been counting on to bolster up their schedule, they don't look like they're there anymore. They don't look like there's something that you can count on to happen. With Miami laying an egg against Alabama. Alabama looked great. I mean, there's 4 and 5 stars everywhere, but that's not the same Alabama we've seen the last few years. They couple a bust and explosive play here or there. I mean, there's 5 stars. They're going to make you pay. But that's a game that, Miami running a quarterback sneak out of the shotgun. Think about that. It was horrible. North Carolina going to Blacksburg and losing to Virginia Tech. North Carolina and Miami were supposed to be the 2 games that Clemson could count on to bolster their resume in case of a loss to Georgia. Those games don't look like they're here anymore. They don't look like something you can count on. And because of that, I really think that the ACC's playoff hopes are on life support. I get that everybody's going to say, hey, Clemson's a brand. The brand's going to get in. They're going to get the benefit of the doubt. And it's like, maybe. Maybe that is the case. But the ACC looks to be about as bad of a conference as we've seen on this side of the country in quite some time. So it's something to keep an eye on. Also, bully for the Pac-12, the opposite end of the spectrum, with the upset, I'll say upset, win over LSU 38-27. It was worse than that. It was 38-20 at one point. UCLA has put themselves in the driver's seat for not only the Pac-12 South, but the playoff hopes of an entire division, especially considering Oregon squeaked by Fresno State and Washington got beat yesterday. It's a big move for the Bruins, a big move for Chip Kelly. Everybody was, treating UCLA like it was a dead program. And everybody's talking about attendance. Everybody's talking about We're not going to talk about attendance on this show. Not during the middle of a pandemic. Half your fan base does not want to go to a place where it's large numbers of people grouped in together. It's okay. It's not the same stuff. I get that people want football season to be like football season has always been. The talking points that you always had and what was important just don't exist anymore. The whole world has changed. And so we're not going to bag on anybody for attendance or anything going on. So we've got that. Big stories around college football. Penn State won over Wisconsin and beat them 16-10. Everybody thought that was a low-scoring game until the Georgia-Clemson game started. Tulane looked very, very good. They lost to Oklahoma 40-35. Oklahoma basically had a nice run in the second quarter that separated the game, and I think it got to 37 points. They scored 3 points in the second half. Tulane lost the game 40-35 and had the ball with a chance to win. So that was pretty cool. Ohio State struggled a little bit. Cincinnati just dominated, but that was an American play in the MAC. That was to be expected. Florida won, and we'll do the SEC in just a second. We're not going to touch the Ole Miss games or the Florida State game, even though this is a review show technically, just because we're going to talk about Ole Miss later, and we'll also talk about Florida State later if there's something that needs to be talked about. So let's see. Arizona State beat Southern Utah. Iowa looked very good against Indiana. Everybody thought this was the year that Indiana was going to break through. That didn't happen. Iowa took it to them. Won the game. They're probably going to end up in the 12-ish range. of the rankings, and we're not ready to say Texas is back. We understand that. We're not saying that, but Texas, a 20-point win over a ranked Louisiana side. Also, horrible day for Louisiana yesterday. Tulane is probably the highlight of the day, barely losing to Oklahoma. Then you got LSU getting beat down by UCLA. You've got Louisiana Tech blowing a 20-point lead against Mississippi State. You've got Louisiana Monroe getting blown out by Kentucky. You've got McNeese and Frank Wilson dropping a game to, I think, a Division II school. And there's just a lot of stuff to go along with that Louisiana 20-point loss at Texas. So let's go on into the SEC. Week 1, Tennessee, they looked okay. But Bowling Green is awful, and Joe Milton struggled. I think one completed pass in the second half. It was a 40-yard basic Hail Mary. Kentucky looked very good. Will Levis really got a handle on things as they took care of business against Louisiana Monroe. Again, an awful team, but he looked okay. Arkansas used 31 points in the second half to beat Rice 38-17. KJ Jefferson struggled throwing the ball. There's a little bit of a weapon running the ball, but that's an offensive thing. If it wasn't for defensive turnovers, Arkansas might have been in trouble there. Again, Alabama used explosive plays, a couple of busts, and Miami, just the inventor of swagger coming out. And you can actually, whenever they came out, you could almost see the pee going down their legs, who they were playing. Central Michigan was a gamed team against Missouri. Missouri got the win, 34-24, though. Talked about Mississippi State's great comeback. 20 points down with like 9 minutes left, and they won the game 35-34. South Carolina behind a graduate assistant quarterback, 46-0 winner over Eastern Illinois. I think that's Tony Romo's school and maybe Sean Payton's. Auburn blew out Akron 60-10. I missed this one pretty good. I didn't think Auburn was 37 points better than anybody. Well, they're definitely 37 points better than Akron. Georgia took care of business against Clemson. Florida took care of business against Florida Atlantic. They didn't cover the game, 35-14. This is something for a second I want to dwell on. Vanderbilt lost the game 23-3 to East Tennessee State. That's an FCS school from, obviously, East Tennessee. And this was Clark Lee's first game. That's problematic. That's a problem. If you're Vandy, I don't care. You don't drop that game. And especially like that. That's bad. That's not good. We'll have to see what Vanderbilt does, but it does not get easier from here forward. They could be looking at another offer this season if they continue to play like this. Although the most improvement people say come between game 1 and game 2. So we'll see what Vanderbilt does. But game 1, oh, that was bad. The whole team should lose their numbers for that. Texas A&M and Haynes Keene, 41-10, covered against Kent State. Kent State's a good team. Haynes Keene threw for nearly 300 yards. It was interesting to see. It was a good game. And UCLA 38, LSU 27. LSU has not fixed their defense. Same defensive problems. On the outside, Derek Stingley does not want to tackle. And they played with intensity at the very beginning of the game. Then after Chip Kelly figured out what they were doing, they just ran the ball. They threw the ball. They threw the same pass and the same route, essentially a waggle to the tight end 4 times during the game, and it was hyper successful. So LSU's got problems. Right now it's Boutte and a bunch of dudes playing for LSU when they got 4 and 5 stars everywhere. That is ridiculous. We are going to, let's see. We're going to look at the playoffs. Looking at the playoffs, we got Georgia in at number 1. We got Alabama at number 2. We got Ohio State at number 4. Oklahoma at number 3. Texas A&M on the outside at 5. Cincinnati at 6. I did not put any ACC teams in there, although number 7 would be Clemson, obviously. But a horrible first weekend for the Atlantic Coast Conference. It was really bad. But, I mean, There it is. A lot of fun. Georgia's sitting in the catbird seat now. They just need to take care of business. The East is going to be a little bit easier than the West. Get to the Alabama game. Now that they had that win over Clemson, there's a little bit of leeway for the Georgia Bulldogs. Although I did not see the offense that was promised from Kirby Smart this weekend. The offense that I saw was very stagnant. It was very slow. It was very conservative. It was very protective of the defense. Now, I understand you're playing Clemson in week 1, but that's not what we were sold, period. But Georgia comes in at number 1. I have no problem with that. Ohio State at number 4. They struggled early, 31 points in the second half to beat Minnesota on the road. Yes, playoff worthy. Against Tulane, Tulane was game to go at it, but that game was essentially over at halftime. Oklahoma used a great second quarter. Everybody's going to talk about what happened after that. Great. And also, like I said, Cincinnati, a G5 team showing up in the inaugural rankings. So that's pretty great. So this has been the Week 1 review show. Hope everybody had a good time, and we will see you next week.